Okay, testing this um Saturday, obviously August 6th. We're gonna look over the weekly or the upcoming week analysis, right? Excuse me. So next week is the week after NFP week, which is always CPI, right? Um, but we're still in August, right? And August isn't the best seasonally, so risk is still gonna be around 2%. 2% max risk. Um, Obviously our rules are there, low frequency, a setup. Just looking for 2 to 3% again. The expectations are a little lower for August, so I'm not looking for the full like 5% a week thing. If that happens, great. But 2 to 3%, we'll do fine with that. Um, don't chase the rabbit and no hate, right? So again, Monday, Tuesdays, um, lower impact or no news. So I don't know if manipulation would be there, if the setups would be favorable. If it is, great. If it's not, also great. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all high impact. So we'll observe those throughout the week, see how those work. And with that, we're looking at the ES, right? Let me go full screen. So this is what as a weekly. I don't want to start there yet. Go to the 3 month. All right. So the 3 month, um, we have so far, right? We haven't touched this order block yet. We haven't come back down to that. Let me bold this so it's a little easier to see. Yeah. So we haven't touched the order block yet. We did obviously wick down into the gap in this 3 month span, and now this will expire. This candle will be over in October, so it's still like a whole month, like basically a month and a half, um, until this candle is complete. But we're finding a way to retrace up into this up close candle before expansion lower, right? So I'm looking at this 3 month candle as a order block, right? A bearish order block, and I'm mainly looking to see how we interact. I mean, I have the low targeted because that's the first area we're gonna hit, but really I'm looking to see how we're gonna interact, basically in this range. So from the low to the open, that's about, what is that? It's like a 40 point range. So I want to see how we interact with that area, because it'll be the first time we come back and touch this order block, right? Because I mean, even though we're rallying higher and we have these clean highs above here, which is buy side liquidity, we also have clean lows down here, right? On this tap down into this gap, and we swept the liquidity under this. We left clean lows above a gap, which is also above an order block. So I am actually looking for us to find some way to retest this here. It's probably gonna be like that September, October time, with quad witch and stuff. But that would basically be another, like, to come back even to these lows, that would be another 12% drop. And then to come down to where this order block is, which I'm thinking that we're gonna come down to, that would be a 17% drop from where we are, right? And then on the year, that would be a almost 30% drop from the high, right? So um, that's what we're looking at, but we're not really trying to anticipate that happening. Um, Wait, let me plug in my charger. All right, so um, what I'm also noticing, right, is that basically it's looking like we're setting up, at least on a 3 month, because I still have a lot more. It still has a lot more data to come through before this candle closes. Um, But again, a swing high was created, right? So we have a swing high here with this candle, because I think that candle is higher than that one. Okay, it is by like 8 points. So this is a swing high, right? And then this candle here is setting up to be a swing low. So again, maybe it'll be like we set a range, and then whatever reason we have some super rally that pushes past this order block, takes out this buy side liquidity. If that happens, then maybe look back here. But I'm just noticing that we have clean highs above here, right? We have clean highs. This is basically buy side liquidity. Um, and that buy side liquidity doesn't have to really be like scalpers or like 1 minute traders or any of that stuff. It could be people with shares, or with people that went short, people that just was like, if we take out this high, I'll go short, and they have their shorts above those highs and then trailing it lower and stuff like that. That's really like the idea that we're looking at. It's no crystal ball type speculation. It's interesting to observe that because we've seen on lesser time frames when price does something like that, it normally means that it's setting up to most likely revisit the areas that it's already passed. So we're just gonna observe what price does. But this range is like 1,000, like 1,100 points. So I mean, I just really want to observe what we do here first. So I'll make this line more fractal, right? But not right now. Um, 2 month. I don't think there's anything crazy. No, not really. No gaps necessarily. Just monthly highs that we made. So those are areas to look for. Actually, let me transpose this on all the month, or at least down to the 2 month. Let's see what that does. Okay, so that'll be this. So that'll be us taking out this high. Essentially, this we've basically been in a range of the past 2 months. Like the range that these 2 months made, we've been inside of that almost perfectly, right? We didn't take the month low, and we haven't taken a high yet. But we have taken the obviously the open. I mean the close and the open, right? So those have been ran, but no high or low yet. Monthly, right? Now we'll be retracing. It looks like we are retracing up to a breaker, right? Because this is a breaker. Yeah, so we'll be retracing up to a breaker. I'm again observing what we do with that, but this breaker has been used, or price has retraced. I don't want to say used. Price has retracing it one time, which is when it made this high, low, higher, high, lower, low, and this candle closed below this low, which actually made it the breaker because these were just tests, but this one actually closed below it. Then the next month came right up into the open of it and then sold down. So we have some form of test on it, but I want to see like how the candles work with a reaction higher. Because basically we've just entered the range of this monthly candle, which I'm thinking is a bearish order block, right? Because it's a up close candle before bearish price action that took out a swing low, right? Um, referencing this swing low, right? We have this swing low taken out way back here. So far on a monthly, the last swing high, quote unquote, that we've made is up here at 4,600 basically. That's the last swing high we made. So on a month, just like how we have this candle here that did um low, oh wait, that did a low, a high. Oh no, I'm sorry. Ugh, that did a high, a low, a higher high, a lower low, and then it retraced, right? Seeing as how we did this for this area, if we break above this high, right, and then close above this high, that would make this candle a bullish breaker. So that would be us basically doing a low, a high, a lower low, a higher high, and then higher. Right? That's the idea of that. So basically the low taken out, or the beginning low here is this. This high is this low, which would also, it's not just the low, high, lower low. This part of the low needs to take out liquidity, and the liquidity normally resides below this low. But if you don't think for whatever reason there's liquidity below this low, then you will look for some form of discount array, right? Because this is a bullish pattern, so you want price to trade into a discount. That's this low area here, this discount run would be a run below what? liquidity. All the liquidity really below these lows, but in these equal lows especially, like it came for these especially. These right here. It didn't come down into this gap, but it did take these out. So low, this, high, that, lower low, this action here. And then if we find a way to push, which right now it seems like where this up move that's happening on indices is really this part where you're looking for a run above the high that took out liquidity. That's where the breaker would reside. And breakers are normally associated with breakup market structure, right? So swing high. If we take this out, if we take this high out, then I'd be looking for us to close above this high, then retest it. Obviously, a run above this high would probably take out this high too. Then, I don't know, form some form of sell side, retest it, come down into that, and push higher if we're truly bullish, right? So that's kind of the main thing that I'm looking at with the monthly. Like, um, yeah, that's just the main thing I'm observing on the monthly. What else? I think that's it. But I just want to see how we react to this breaker, and if we could find a way to push above that, and we take this high out, right? Because it's basically just if then. Like if we come up here and we can't break above this high, then I'm probably not gonna be bullish. But if we do break above this high, then I'll start looking to see if we can break and hold above it to make it a breaker. Just like how this action had wicks below, no closes, no monthly closes. But when it actually closed, then boom, bearish delivery. So when we actually close above this, then boom, bullish delivery I'll be looking for. So yeah, that's that. But until then, you're just looking at what we do on a monthly basis. I'm gonna put buy side because that would be a run on buy side liquidity. Okay, so that I don't need to bold it actually. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go down to a week now. All right, so on a week now, I'm looking at this is kind of a better example of fractal price. Right, so if on a monthly, let's go back to that. On a monthly, I'm looking for this to be broken above if we're trying to be bullish, and that to be a breaker. And on the weekly, right, because again, price is fractal. This run, even though I mean I'm seeing this as a turtle soup here, because we ran liquidity here, the overarching price model, because this run here was that was just a low resistant liquidity run, right? Like we just took these lows and then we higher. But this overarching price setup here in this area, drop box. Come on. This, boom, I make it black. In this area, this can be the making of a weekly breaker, right? How is that? Because we have a low, a high, a lower low, and then right now we're in the phase where do we make a higher high, which is closing above this high? Do we make a higher high here? Or do we come up into some form of liquidity like this gap or something else on a daily or something and make a lower low, right? Because this is kind of like this is the part that would invalidate or validate the breaker. If we could take this high out and close above it, right, close above that, and then retest it, then we look for higher. It's kind of ugly, but that's what the breaker is, right? So I'm looking to see if this candle here could become a bullish breaker. Right, that's what I'm looking for. I know we have these clean highs here, right? Those are something I'm sure a lot of people are looking at because ICT or not, you notice things like that, like clean relative highs. I mean, even if you take influence from him or not, it's there. So, and this obviously was a run on sell side, so I'm looking for this low, high, lower low. Do we make a higher high? If you make a higher high on the week and then close, which basically I'm looking at if this week can close above this week, then I would be looking for some form of retest on the body of, because this candle, this is a strong candle, bro. Like, this is thick. It doesn't have much wick, so I mean, you can use the body or the wick, but it's really only like a 12-point difference. I'll be looking at the bodies, because that's just something uh P-Dub gave us, or not really us, but everybody gave everybody, and I find that to be cleaner entries. Like, if you have the patience to wait for it to come to the bodies, you normally don't take any drawdown, honestly. So I'm looking to see of a retest of like 41. What is it? 41.55. If this becomes a weekly breaker. If this becomes a weekly breaker, right? If this becomes a weekly breaker, this candle here becomes a weekly breaker, and we break above this high, I would probably run this sell side liquidity. I mean, sorry, buy side. I'm blanking out. Then, and retest happens or whatever. Then I'm looking at after that, I'm not even gonna label this buy side. Actually, I'm gonna label this the question marks, because if it happens, then yeah, that's just what we'll look for. Anyway, take this buy side out. Then the next area of liquidity I'll be looking at would be this weekly swing high. Right, that'll be the next area of interest. Within this area of interest would also be above these highs, this gap, this weekly gap here. That is what I would look for there. And like Peter mentioned, we already have a bearish breaker in this area. We have a high, low, higher high, run on buy side, just like this, right? Clean highs. And then a lower low. So then this lower low and this close below this low, which happened here with this candle. When that price pattern happens, bearish, you look for the last down close candle or candles, depending on the time frame, before the run on liquidity. So these, or this really was the last. I mean, I would look at these two, but I would mainly focus on this one because it has more body. These were the last candle before we ran those highs out, and then made a lower low, which we closed below. But this week, we barely closed below. We did close below. So next week, what do? Retrace up into the area of this body, and then deliver lower. So I can see that this candle has already been delivered to with this candle with that closure below, and then the actual retest of this candle. So you had the closure below retest, and then this retest. So I'm not really looking for this candle to provide much resistance, but I will observe it. We will observe it. But really, I'm just looking for, can we break above this to make a breaker, and basically look for this, whatever this whole leg was, with this. That's kind of what I'm looking at. With that, that's what I'm looking at with that. So it'll be this gap here. We'll label it weekly, not that gap. Weekly, too big. Okay, cool. So we'll be looking at that. Then this swing high, and then obviously this swing high here. So these are the areas I'm looking at. Now, with us looking higher into these areas, right? I'm also not gonna ignore the fact that even though we had these 2 weeks relatively equal lows, and then we had this week doing that low resistance liquidity run below those lows, this expansion away, even though we did sweep liquidity under here, this expansion away also means that, wait, hold on a second. Okay, this run below also means that there is now sell side liquidity under here. Even though we did run stops here, just run above, right? Anybody that's trying to chase this higher or just went long in these weeks of running, if they just thought, okay, we were able to close above this high with this candle, so retest it and go higher. I'm still observing this area because this is still something I'm looking at. If we try to come back down here. Now with that, on the week, there is another weekly gap, right? There's one right here, right there. So we have a bearish gap and we have a bullish gap. Some form of retesting this week with CPI or something and then higher. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not trying to speculate, but that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at with that. I think that's everything on the week. I don't need this. Yeah, I don't need this anymore. There's also a small weekly gap here, but that's just something else. On the day. Alright, so we had the turtle tooth here, the breaker there. Not really anything I'm looking for on the day, but again, this is that high to make that breaker. If we break above it, and then obviously this area is that week's on the weekly chart, the double weekly highs, like the two weekly highs. We have these two right here, these 2 weeks making these same highs. That was this consolidation. Right, so observing that, and then obviously daily gap and all those things. But that's mainly what we're looking for going forward on the MES. I don't think I'm missing anything else, but that's just the main thing that I'm really looking for. Seeing as how this is the last swing low before expansion higher, and we're not done yet because we have a lower high, but we haven't made a lower high to the right. But assuming this becomes a swing high, I would be looking at this range, right? And it's kind of concerning that this gap is above equilibrium, and the last swing low we made was this low. So really, if it's a bullish trend, like if this was if this is turning out to be a market maker buy model, right? If that's what this is looking to be, it's a fractal one. If that's what this is, then you wouldn't want any lows to be taken. So even though this gap would be technically above the equilibrium for this range that we made, or that we're making, because again, we're not, this weekly candle isn't finished yet, so we're just assuming based off of this candle, but it could be completely wrong. That the last one was this, so that really gives you a wide range, honestly, of price, of a wide range of price to look for a retrace. That's 12%. That's almost 450 points of price, because the last low is this. At least on the weekly, the last swing low is this on the weekly, and this gap is here. So if we could hold this gap and push higher, I mean, that would show more strength. But if you want like a deeper retrace into this tiny weekly gap, because it is small but it is there, this tiny gap, then something to look forward to with price. So we have this gap above equilibrium and this gap below equilibrium. How does price respond to that? I have no idea, but just something to look for. That's what I'm looking at. I think that's it for real this time. I think that's everything. Daily, I don't really have anything else to look for on that, really. Yeah, that was it. I think that's everything. How long has this been? 20 minutes? Okay, cool, not that bad. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.